You guys have got some great questions involving canning. I'm going to read some of these off and see if I can help answer some of them. Can you tell if a jar has botulism? No, botulism doesn't have a smell, it doesn't have a taste, it doesn't have anything like that. All right, this is one of the reasons why I say to leave your rings off, okay? If your lid, you can tell this is indented here, if your lid pops off, that one is a good indication you did not get a good seal. Something's going on the inside. Bacteria is growing and producing gases and pops your lid off. That's why I recommend storing without the rings, so you can see that before it's time to open dinner up and then you realize all your food is spoiled. No, it does not have a smell. It doesn't have a taste. So you can't just look at something and go, oh yeah, there's botulism. But you can see if there is mold growing. You can smell if the food is beginning to turn. So the key is, when in doubt, throw it out. You want to follow your procedures incredibly carefully. You want to read your instructions. Don't guess when you are canning food. You don't want to do that. You don't want to guess. You want to be positive and accurate. You need to have your pressure gauge. You need to know what your PSI needs to be at. You need to know what your elevation is in order to know what your PSI needs to be at. When it comes to pressure canning, when it comes to water bath canning, you need to know what your elevation is so that you can add time if need be. Anything over 1,000 feet from sea level, you need to add time to it because water boils at a certain temperature depending on where you are. If you are at sea level, you're going to be boiling at 212 degrees Fahrenheit. Well, if you're above sea level, say 1,000 feet above sea level, it's for every 500 feet above sea level, you have to I believe it's subtract 1 degree Fahrenheit. Sorry guys, don't know the Celsius conversion for that. In order to know what you're supposed to be boiling at. So I've shown you guys in previous videos of some conversion charts. Make sure you keep those on hand, screenshot it, whatever you need to do, because that's going to give you the tips and tricks that you need to know in order to process them at the correct time. If you don't want to go through my videos, get that ball canning book. This one right here, it has all of that information in the back as far as your, let's see here, your elevations, okay? This is United States only because this is an USDA approved book, okay? And then it also gives you your conversion chart for water bath canning and adding time. Will you ever go live during a canning process? Probably not. The reason for that is I do cold water, cold food in a cold pressure canner, slowly raise everything up to temperature, and then I process that normally. So average processing times for where I live, depending on the food, can be anywhere. The actual process time can be anywhere from 45 minutes to 90 minutes, and that's just the processing. It takes like an hour to get the temperature up, and then getting the food prepared and everything else. That's an all-day event, and most people can't just sit on TikTok and watch somebody boil water for 3 hours. So odds are no. This is why I edit videos and try to make it as quickly as possible, you know, cover the key parts, the important stuff, and then just fast forward or clip out the parts of rising temperatures and boiling. Why can't you just bake the jars in the oven instead of a pressure canner? Well, if you go onto any of these jars' websites, so if you go to the Ball Canning or the Kerr, they tell you these are not made for dry heat. So that's one reason. They have to be submerged under the water to get to the correct pressure. When you're in an oven, you're not actually getting pressure, you're just getting heat. All right, and that heat and the combination of pressure is what helps to kill the bacteria that will eventually or can lead to botulism or just bad food in general. So these are not made to go in the oven per their websites and per USDA guidelines, which if you are following me, know that that is what I'm focusing on this series. I do talk about rebel canning every once in a while. I've got nothing against it. I've got a lot of people on here that follow me and I follow them. They are rebel canners, but to start out, it is good to have a baseline, understand the rules and why we do the things we do, and then branch out. Okay, this is a good one. Your food looks bland. Why don't you season it? Okay, I do season my food. Slow down. Just because I'm white doesn't mean I don't season my food. For example, ground beef. You can use this in a ton of different meals, right? If I want to make a lasagna, I don't want this tasting like steak seasoning. If I want to put it in tacos, I don't want it tasting like a lasagna. If I'm making whatever, I don't want it to taste like something else. I don't put salt in this either because I season my meals. Depending on what I'm cooking, depends on what kind of seasoning I want in it. All right, if I want it to be a little bit more salty, I can add salt to it later. It's not the end of the world. The only thing I'm concerned about when it comes to canning is making sure the correct juices are in here to help enhance the flavor of the meat itself. All right, same with my chicken. If I want fettuccine Alfredo one day, I don't want this tasting like something that's going to be coming out of a pot pie. It's different seasonings, different flavors for different foods. So I season after. If you want to put the seasoning in all of your meat and have all of your meat taste the same, go for it. But if I'm going to have this in a stew, I don't want it tasting like fajitas. If I want it in fajitas, I don't want it tasting like stew. Does that make sense? So that's why I don't season the meat in the cans or the stews in the cans. I season afterwards. Not only that, some people, like I can't do cilantro. But I've got family members that love cilantro. Well, I'm not going to go and not put it in one and put it in another and worry about allergies here. I love mushrooms. Nobody else in the house likes mushrooms. So I got to be very careful with certain spices and seasonings and certain meals, especially if I have friends, family, guests over and we're all enjoying a meal together. I got to be careful of certain allergies. So I just don't bother seasoning until it's time to make the meal. Can I store fruit in jars in the fridge for a longer life, like temporary jarring? Sure, sure. All right, here's some cherries. Now these have been processed. I water bath canned these. So you can definitely do that if you get apple slices or strawberries are a really good one. Put them in your jars, put a nice lid on it, put it in your fridge, and because there's no air circulating around, it does last longer. By how much? About a week? Sometimes longer depending on the fruit. So yeah, you definitely can, but it has to be refrigerated if you're not going to process it. All right, for this one, shout out to, let me see if I got her name right here, C1 Frail Rose. All right, she asked me, can I save grease from cooking? Yes, but there's a process that you have to follow. You have to refine the fats first. Miranda Rosenberg, I follow her. She has been in a couple of my, I did tag her in a couple of my videos. She is phenomenal for teaching you how to do that. I'm not going to dive into it just because everything I learned from her, but I will tag her down below. This is mine, for example. This one's tallow. I've got tallow, I've got lard, and I've got schmaltz. Tallow is beef fat when you're cooking. Lard obviously is from pig, and schmaltz comes from bird, so like your chicken or your turkey, drippings and stuff like that. They have to be rendered down. You have to get the impurities out or they will spoil. Now, one of the things that I do that Miranda doesn't is I can mine. I will pressure can these for about 25 minutes, let them cool, and this is what I'm left with. It's a nice seal on this. It's not going to come off, and I can use it whenever I need it, and it's really good in baking breads or seasoning your cast iron or putting in your cooking up eggs. Whatever you want to do with it, you can definitely do it, and it becomes shelf stable. So that's it for today. You guys are amazing with your questions. Keep them coming. Put them down in the comment section. When I get a lot of them, I will answer you guys as quickly as possible. Thanks so much.